SicEm365 Sports. Grayson Grundhoefer, nice enough to move it back a little bit today. So our guest list we had in the 3 o'clock hour joins us, SicEm365 Recruiting Analyst, co-host of the Bearcast with Craig every Tuesday. And Grayson, thank you very much. Right now, and it's kind of a generic question, perhaps not. Right now, what is front and center with this staff, the Baylor staff, on what's happening in the next week or two?
Yeah, I mean, it's the official visit. There's going to be a lot of storylines throughout June just because you have the camp as well. So you could see some 2023 offers go out. You're definitely going to see a lot of 2024 and 2025 type offers. But, that comes second, right? Because they have 3 straight weekends with official visits. And it's going to be really important that they not only continue to make up ground in the 2023 class, but they also continue building these relationships and also, guys, truthfully, trying to figure out which guys they absolutely want to take in this class as well, because they have a lot of interest, from a lot of guys. So a big part of kind of this whole process is going to be getting guys on campus and figuring out the true priorities, the guys that you absolutely have to land in this class. So kind of all of that coming together over the next 3 weekends will be huge. But I know they're taking these official visits really seriously. And that's the only reason why you would have 3 in a row in the middle of June. And then they may save one for later in the year, but right now those 3 are front and center.
Does the departure of CJ Rodgers should it give anybody any stress at all, or does the arrival of Luke Anthony kind of negate plus upgrade that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think Luke Anthony is an upgrade over CJ Rodgers. Now, would you rather have both of them? Sure. Like, you would love to have even more depth on the roster. That's never a bad thing. But at the end of the day, Luke Anthony's a more proven commodity, a guy that I feel like is far more ready to step in and play right away for this Baylor team. Even though, he's behind a little bit in the playbook and everything like that, he's been a starter his entire career. I mean, he was Conference USA Newcomer of the Year at Louisiana Tech in 2020. I mean, this guy has played a lot of football at a pretty high level and been very successful. So he was a huge pickup for this team. And then obviously the departure of CJ Rodgers made it even more of a necessity. And so now you got Luke Anthony, you got Kyron Drones, and then of course you also have Blake Shapen and whatever walk-on that Baylor decides to add. Brayson McHenry, the quarterback out of Texas High, he'll be here, or he should be here already now. And so they're just trying to continue to build depth there. And I think everyone should be pretty excited about that quarterback room, even with the departure of CJ Rodgers.
Not everybody's privy to what's talked about on the SicEm365 boards if they're not a member. And so I have to ask the question, but how much concern or what pops into your head when you see that, Austin Novosad's going on an official visit to Ohio State? Because I know from seeing Baylor fan reactions, it's like resigned defeat for some. But how do you kind of feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the greatest news in the world if you're a Baylor fan, and it's obviously another step in kind of, him going out and exploring potential options. This is an official visit, so it's a big deal, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. But on the flip side, it's also kind of like this. You only get one chance to go through a recruitment, and this is his first opportunity to go through that and to be able to experience it. And he wanted to go visit Ohio State. And I got to tell y'all, when you get an offer from a school like Ohio State as a quarterback, wouldn't you want to go up there and at least see what they have to offer? And I think that's the part that maybe Baylor fans are missing, because everyone wants this just complete loyalty, don't care about any other school, don't want to listen to any other school. But at the end of the day, this is a big decision. This is, as everyone talks about, this isn't just a 4-year decision. This is a life decision. And so I think for Austin to go up there and at least see what they have to offer, because his last trip there a week or two ago when he got his offer for the camp, it was really quick. It was just an unofficial visit. He did the camp and then he left. They were able to get him back, go on an official visit. And to me, I think the biggest thing that Baylor fans should kind of be happy about is that, yes, he'll go on this official visit. He'll probably have a great time, but then he's immediately coming back and going to Baylor next weekend. So as of right now, I'm not too worried about it. I think Baylor's done a great job recruiting Austin, and Austin has been completely locked in from the very beginning. And as I've kind of mentioned a few times, those relationships he has at Baylor are going to be really hard for any school to duplicate. And therefore, I feel pretty confident still that he's going to end up signing and enrolling with Baylor in January.
Let's just say, Grayson, what if they had to switch gears, do they have a plan B at the moment?
Guys, they're in a lot of trouble if they don't land Austin Novosad. And I think that, and see, that all kind of ties back into things, right? They decided to take Austin Novosad instead of taking a 2022 quarterback. Like, they've invested so much into him, and he knows that. And he also knows the roster situation at Ohio State is not nearly as favorable as it is at Baylor. Baylor's made him a priority since day one. So all of that coming together is kind of the obvious reasons why I still feel really confident about it. But I do think that's a great question, Craig, because if you really look at it, they haven't gone out and recruited guys. They haven't really talked to a lot of quarterbacks at all in the 2023 class. They've just been so tied into Austin. And I think that makes him feel like a priority. It does. It absolutely does. But I would also say that, if he does end up going somewhere else, I think they're definitely going to have to take a transfer coming up in the next cycle. And then I think they'd probably just try to find a guy at camp, a 2023 guy that they feel like, okay, maybe he could turn into something. Because right now you look across the state, I mean, you really have two guys, Jackson Arnold and Austin Novosad are the two guys that you really, really want in your recruiting class. Everyone else is kind of like, I don't know how good they're going to be. Jake Strong at Texas Tech, he's solid. He's a tier below the other two. And same with Bo Edmondson at Lake Travis. They're just a tier below. So it's just kind of a matter of, you just take a quarterback for taking a quarterback. I think they will, but then I think they'll supplement that with a transfer. And luckily, nowadays, you can find a transfer portal quarterback pretty easily.
I'm not giving out all your list, but you do have the dates of those the various visits coming up. And one of the names that intrigued me was Isaiah Crawford, who's a Texas Tech commit now. He was a Baylor commit and then switched, I believe, when Joey McGuire got to Texas Tech. He's coming at the end of June. Is that anything they could try, or is that one locked in, you think, to Lubbock because that's close to where he lives?
Yeah, so the proximity to home is big. And the big reason why he flipped was because of his relationship with Joey McGuire. And it's one of those situations that's really tough, right? Because Baylor was recruiting him really hard, but Joey was his position coach. Joey was the guy who was kind of his primary contact at Baylor. So when he moved and now he's a head coach, that's really appealing. And he became, a Tech commit shortly after decommitting from Baylor. And so I know he really likes Tech. And Tech has done a great job recruiting him. They've made him a priority since, the moment they got there. And I know he loves everything about Tech. But I would also say this is pretty big news in my eyes because Baylor's been kind of trying to play from behind a little bit in his recruitment, but they haven't stopped building that relationship with him. Caleb Collins, Dennis Johnson, Aaron Hunt. Those guys are continuing to build solid relationships with him, and that's the reason why he's taking a visit to Baylor. I believe he'll also take one to Colorado as well. So he's leaving the door open a little bit, but at this moment, it seems like he's pretty locked into Tech, but we'll see. He's going there, I believe, on the 17th to Tech, and I think if he doesn't cancel the Baylor visit, that's really good news that he's still going to take that trip even after he just went to Lubbock, and that Tech's going to do everything they can to keep him from taking an official visit elsewhere.
Grayson Grundhoefer, SicEm365.com, recruiting analyst. Grayson again with us on Fridays and today in the 4 o'clock hour as well. ND Kalu's son, I saw his name on your list. He's from, is that the former NFL defensive lineman's son?
Yes, it is.
DK from Ridge Point. Okay. Bloodlines there, I guess. I know ND pretty well. So there's some bloodlines with him. Where is he on the pecking order?
Yeah, he's been a major, major target for Baylor. And as y'all know, watching Apuika and what he's done in this Baylor defense, it makes it very clear that Baylor needs nose tackles. They have got to continue to build that position and get more depth there. Because right now they don't have a ton of depth at that position. Luckily, they were able to go out and get Jackson Player. So now you got Ika and Player, and you feel great about that position for this year. But in the coming years, you look at the roster, it's basically like Trey Emery, who's a true freshman, and that's the end of the list. So they really got to figure out a way to build more depth there. I think you'll probably see a transfer addition at nose tackle next, heading into next cycle, especially if Ika leaves, which I think we're all pretty much expecting that just because he's going to be a pretty high draft pick. So if he does leave, they'll probably bring in someone to supplement him for the next year. But then to have guys like Trey Emery and a guy like DK Kalu would be massive. And DK really fits their mold. He's very athletic. He's already at 270, 275 pounds. So he already has great weight. And obviously when he gets to Baylor, they'll want him to get even bigger. But his frame really, I think, is going to lend itself really well to adding more weight and just becoming stronger, faster, and even more athletic. So he's been a priority for that nose tackle spot. I really liked his game. He was injured a lot this year, which kind of held him back a little bit. But I think you'll see tape next year where you just kind of see him continue to rise and continue to get better and better. So, yeah, he's a major priority and a guy that Baylor's done a great job recruiting. And I would probably consider Baylor his leader at this time.
Grayson, one player that's already on campus, everybody's moved in now at this point, but Kyan Roberts-Day, we didn't talk to you last week, so your thoughts on him and starting out at running back, it appears, for this Baylor football team.
Yeah, guys, 6'4", 270 pounds, and Baylor is taking the chance on putting him at running back. That should tell you everything you need to know about the kind of athlete he is. And you got to remember, during his recruitment, he was being recruited as a tight end. They told him, you're going to play offense. We'll start you there. Kyan wants to play offense. They're going to give him every shot in the world to play on the offensive side of the ball. And I think the running back position is one where you look at the roster and you go, okay, they got a lot of really good running backs, but I don't see anyone that truly is a workhorse or has that frame where it's like, okay, we could give the ball to this guy either 20 times a game or a goal line / short yardage running back. They don't really have that on the roster at this time. And obviously Abram was so good at that last year. So you move Kyan over and you just see what he has there. He played running back last year and really kind of was forced into that role because his team in Missouri at Festus High School really needed him to play that position. They didn't throw the ball to him much, but he really put a lot on tape. And while I like that, I love what I've seen from him, he does need to lose some weight. I don't think that there's any way he's going to be able to play the running back position in the Big 12 and at this level at 270 pounds. To put that in perspective, Derrick Henry is 247 pounds.
Yeah. And
you see how big he looks when you watch him play. So I think Kyan really needs to get around that 250-pound weight if he really wants to take the running back position seriously and have a role this upcoming year. But he's a great athlete. I think he's going to be a great player at Baylor. And whether that's at running back, tight end, or on the defensive line, I think he's going to be very, very productive.
I actually Googled Derrick Henry when you were talking about Kyan, his weight. And, you're right, 6'3", 247 pounds. Thanks for your time, Grayson. We appreciate it. Great to have you on again, and we'll talk to you again next week. Enjoy the coverage that you have coming up in the month of June. Again, Grayson all over the recruiting part of it on SicEm365.